Hi, it's been a while, hasn't it? And today's episode is all about doing the hard thing. I hope me doing this is a nice example, but I've actually got a couple of examples from the therapy room to share with you. Conversations that I've had with clients and specific struggles that hopefully will bring some of these ideas to life a little bit. So first of all, I just want to say a little bit about why I'm sharing this. And in a nutshell, like one of the favourite things that I have about doing the job that I do is being able to help people to realise that they're not alone in the struggles that they're facing. Sometimes that's about sharing with them confidentially somebody else's experience. Sometimes it's about being in a group setting and being able to directly share those experiences with each other. And always the realization that this isn't just something that you're struggling with is always such a relief. It's like it's visible in the room. So hopefully, well, my hope is that I share some of these examples with you today, and it helps you to see that if you're struggling with these things too, that it's not just you. And B, I hope that by sharing these examples and telling you a little bit about how we might address them in therapy, it helps you to see how these tools and techniques and skills might be helpful to you too. Doing this on a video feels really uncomfortable. I've realised that one of the things I struggle with most about this is that usually as a therapist, I'm having a conversation with another person. So for me to sit here in front of a video looking at myself as I talk is really uncomfortable. And it's something that I'm willing to do, like I'm willing to make room for all of those feelings of discomfort, because I believe that sharing this will or could make a difference, a positive difference to somebody's life. And that's important enough for me. Like the prospect that this could help is important enough to me to be able to make room for those feelings and those urges to suddenly, I don't know, cleaning the hob seemed like a really important task that I just had to talk myself out of, so that I came and did this instead. Yes, so it might feel a bit uncomfortable for me, and I'm not going to edit it because I A, haven't got the skills, and B, haven't got the time or the inclination to try and make this really polished. It's going to be a kind of live insight into my brain, maybe, because it involves self-reflection and something that I try and do at the end of every week. I've got a little reminder set on my phone to check in with myself, is looking back at the week, looking what's come up in therapy, in my own life, looking at what's been difficult, what's gone well, and really trying to just squeeze as much goodness out of that as possible. So, self-reflection mode engaged. I guess it might be most helpful to share with you a couple of examples of what doing the hard thing might look like. So I've got some examples, or two examples specifically, that have come up in therapy sessions over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So one of them is about a client wanting to spend time doing meaningful activities rather than the easy thing, which would be to scroll on their phone or watch something mind-numbing on TV that's just enough to kind of distract them, but it's not really adding anything to the quality of their life. So that example is really about how difficult it can be to be intentional about your actions when your default setting and what's easiest is to reach for your phone and have the TV on, rather than going into a different room potentially, or even being in the same room, but choosing to pick up a book, to turn off the TV, to put some music on. So that's one example. And the second example, that first example, by the way, I could really relate to. I could really relate to the second one too, which is about asking for help. Oh yes, the favourite. So asking for help for this person was about wanting and needing more support than they were getting. And we spoke a lot about how difficult it can be to resist doing the short-term fix. In this case, it's just quicker and easier, and there's less conflict if I just do the thing myself. And we spoke a lot about how that in the short term is really effective because the thing gets done without any resistance, without causing any bad feeling, without feeling uncomfortable themselves. But in the long term, we kind of realised that that person was setting themselves up for more of the same in the future. So yeah, the kind of theme that I suppose we're talking about here is how easy it is to fall into doing the easy thing, the path of least resistance. And just to give a bit of context around that, there's a really good reason why we find it difficult to resist that urge to take the path of least resistance. And it's to do with our good old human minds. They have two jobs really. One, to keep us alive, to keep us safe, and two, to keep us as comfortable as possible. And being comfortable means often doing what you've always done, repeating the same behaviours that you've repeated in the past, and having a sense of certainty that if I do this, then this is what's going to happen. So that familiarity sort of helps us to feel safe and comfortable. And obviously, doing something different to that is going to feel uncomfortable. And it's particularly difficult to choose to do the hard thing in a high stress situation, because our minds kind of go into survival mode then, and to conserve energy, they will take us down the path of least resistance. So for instance, in this asking for help example, that the thought of asking for help was bringing up a lot of anxiety, a lot of physical sensations, a lot of discomfort there. And that was to do partly with that person's sort of rules and expectations of themselves about, I should be able to do this all myself, I shouldn't need to ask for help, needing help is a sign of weakness, etc., etc. So that person was already feeling very anxious at the prospect of doing something different, asking for help. And when we're feeling really anxious and keyed up and we're in survival mode, that prefrontal cortex is kind of switched off or overridden for a while. And that makes it really difficult to generate enough energy to be able to choose to do the more difficult thing, which might be more beneficial in the long run, but in that moment takes a lot more energy than just taking the path of least resistance. So there's really good reasons why we find it so difficult to change our behaviour, especially in high stress situations or situations that we perceive as being more risky. So that's one example. And the thing that we focused on in our sessions together relating to this being able to ask for help was a bit about why this matters, like what's it in service of. And for this person, it was about doing something now that future them would feel pleased about or relieved about or thankful for. It's not easy to get to that point on your own and to recognize that. So again, this is a result of lots of conversations and lots of self-inquiry, and that person really being willing to explore some of their reasoning. So yeah, why did it matter? What was it in service of? And I guess crucially, like, what are they willing to open up to make room for in terms of uncomfortable feelings, emotions, physical sensations, in service of doing that thing, doing the hard thing that was going to be more beneficial to them in the long run. We also did some work to help them to dial down the anxiety, to override that fight or flight mode, and to feel a bit calmer. And that was through doing some breathing exercises and deliberately kind of letting go of the tension that they were feeling in their body when they thought about asking for help. We also did a bit of deliberate practice in the form of a bit of a role play where we tried out different phrases or different things that person could say, different ways of bringing up a conversation that was difficult. And that was actually really helpful. It always feels a bit cringy doing a role play, but actually it gives you the opportunity to, in a really safe space, and the therapy space is a really safe space, to try out doing something differently. It gave that person the opportunity to find their own phrases, their own style, really, of asking for help, without being under pressure to say the right thing or get it exactly right first time. So that was really good. And the sort of homework that they were left with after these sessions was to practice asking for help in lower risk situations. So maybe in a shop, asking somebody who works there, can you pass this to me? Or can you give me a hand loading my shopping? Or you get the gist. So really seeking out opportunities to try asking for help and seeing how it felt, seeing whether it gets any easier the more that they do it, seeing if it feels less uncomfortable, and actually seeing if doing it more helps to make it the default setting rather than, don't worry, I'll do it myself. So that was one example. The other example that I shared with you about spending time reading or listening to music and really wanting to be more intentional about the way they were spending their time in the evenings. I think this was specifically talking about. And we followed a similar kind of line of inquiry. So why did it matter? Like, why not just do the easy thing? Why not just scroll through your phone, look on Instagram, or check emails or go through photos or read the BBC News or whatever it was. Why not just do that? It's easy, doesn't require any effort. It's easy to sit in front of a TV program that you're not really watching, but is just taking the edge off that boredom perhaps. So yeah, what's the point of trying to read this book that you bought, or go and put a record on, or play some music that you like, or do anything really? Like, why bother? And that was actually really powerful for that person, and we linked it back to some of their values about being curious and wanting to have a wider understanding of the world and an appreciation for the arts. And it was really powerful actually watching that person join the dots between, actually this is important to me because my values are around having a really rich and full experience, and sometimes that's going to mean doing the thing that feels more difficult, because when they do manage to take time to read, or they do manage to put some music on that they really enjoy, that gives them much more nourishment and a much richer experience than scrolling through their phone, for example. So in neither of these situations that I'm sharing was there a kind of right or wrong. If that person really enjoyed spending time looking on their phone and they were choosing to do that with intention, and they were getting fulfillment from it, that's great. But that person wasn't having that experience. They were finding it more draining, and then they were giving themselves a hard time that why am I going to bed so late, and now I haven't got time to read the book that I wanted to read because I'm too tired, and now I can't get to sleep because I've been on my phone. So it has all of these knock-on effects. I hope it's helpful for you to hear some sort of general examples, and I might have mixed a couple of different clients together to preserve confidentiality and anonymity here, but these two examples have certainly come up in the last couple of weeks in therapy, and I think they come up a lot. They tend to come up in group sessions that I do as well, and generally there are themes around how difficult it is to do the difficult but more rewarding thing. Okay, so I guess bringing this to a conclusion now. I can't believe I've been talking for 18 minutes. You poor things. Have you had it on fast forward? Maybe you just skipped to the end. Anyway, I'm not going to get caught up with those thoughts. So if you are struggling with doing the right thing, the more meaningful thing, doing the hard thing, and you're finding yourself procrastinating, I have a couple of prompts for you to spend a little bit of time reflecting on. So first of all, why does it matter? Or does it matter? What's it in service of? So what would doing the hard thing be in service of? Why bother? What am I willing to make room for in pursuit of doing this difficult but meaningful thing? And that might be making room for difficult feelings, for uncomfortable thoughts, different physical sensations. So what are you willing to make room for in pursuit of doing the meaningful but difficult thing? And how can you set yourself up for success? So is it about putting a reminder on your phone? Is it about seeking out opportunities to practice? Is it about breaking it down into steps? Is it about getting somebody else on board who can help you, support you when they see that you're scrolling on your phone, for instance? That concludes today's therapy juice. I really hope it's been helpful. It was certainly helpful for me to take a little bit of time to reflect on what's come up and to think about how this shows up in my own life too. And in doing that, actually, it helps me to bring my therapy skills to my own life, so I can, what's that phrase? Get a high on your own supply. I get to do that too. So it's been really helpful for me to articulate some of these things and share these reflections with you. The hard thing will be showing up again next week and sharing some of the examples that have come up over the last, or well, it will be the last couple of weeks. Anyway, I'm rambling now. Hopefully I will see you next week. If you would like me to focus on anything in particular, please do get in touch. I also have a mailing list. I don't know why I'm whispering it like that, but I do. So sign up for that if you would like to have a monthly sort of sum up of what's been going on, and it's usually got some therapy tools and tips in there and information about what's coming up. So sign up for that if you like the sound of it. And yeah, please just share this if you found it helpful. Share it with somebody else. Knowledge is power after all. And I hope you have a good weekend. Bye for now.